All right, family, we are back again. This is your brother Assad,
And Adrian.
and we wanted to do a quick. We always do that quick word. A quick recap of the South African American dialogue, call one. And I say call one because the next call will be on Wednesday at 11 o'clock United States time, which is 7 o'clock South African time, 10 o'clock East Coast time, and um,
I don't know.
9
Yeah,
o'clock,
nine.
9 in the morning,
Yeah.
9 a.m. West Coast time. So 11 o'clock Central time, 7 p.m. South African time will be the next South African American dialogue. And I wanted to start the video off first by saying I want to thank everyone that participated in the call.
Yeah.
I mean, it was professional. It was organized. No one jumped in talking over each other, acting all, thuggish, ruggish. I don't know. Maybe that's a South African thing.
Maybe so. I
Maybe
thought it
so.
was maybe like reflective of the people we're speaking with.
Right, right. Yeah. Okay. I'll take that. It's
Yeah.
reflective of the people. And we had some really great people on the
Yeah.
call. And
And
it
people were
wasn't just,
supportive of one another too.
right,
So sort of like shouting out things that the other said or like, yeah, I see where you're coming from.
right.
Even when there was a slight disagreement, it was still very like I see things
Respectful.
differently. So I
Yeah,
enjoyed
it,
that.
it, it was great. And it wasn't just South Africans on the call. And it wasn't just Black Americans. We had
Yeah.
a brother from Canada on the call,
Yeah.
who's looking to move to South Africa. We had another brother from the U.S. who was looking to move to South Africa. We had a brother who was from South Africa living in the U.S.
Right.
His name was Denzel. I remember that because who's gonna forget Denzel, right? Oh, now what's your name, Denzel from South Africa? Denzel, all right.
And
Uh,
he thought was he in Charlotte?
he was in North Carolina. Yeah, he was in North
Thought it was.
Carolina.
Oh,
Charlotte.
maybe.
He
Okay,
was in
yeah, yeah,
Charlotte.
yeah.
Yeah, he was in Charlotte.
Anyhow, he said you should come. Like Charlotte's great.
He
So
he he
there's
literally said that
different
Charlotte
opinions.
is the Johannesburg of the United States. That's what he said. He said Charlotte's the Johannesburg of the United States. Now, keep in mind that comparison is big because Charlotte, North Carolina, is considered one of the best places for African Americans to live
Hmm.
and earn a decent income, right?
Yeah.
So to say that Charlotte is the Johannesburg of North Carolina of the United States, it's some depth, right, to
Hmm.
that comparison.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we had a lot of people on the call. I think it topped out at about 21 people, which is a decent call. Anything more than that, it just kind of gets confusing.
Unmanageable.
It's
It was
unmanageable,
a
right?
great number of people.
Right.
It's the perfect number.
I want to say also before we go another further, before we
Another
continue,
feather.
if you're interested in being on this call, and I'm saying this now because what we're about to say, if you're interested in being on the next call next Wednesday, what date is that? December what? Let's
Was it
make sure.
15?
Is that the
Yep.
15th?
Oh
Yeah.
goodness. Anyway, continue
Next
on.
Wednesday,
Yeah, it was
December
the 15th.
Wednesday, December 15th. The next call will be Wednesday, December 15th, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time in the United States, and that'll be 7 p.m. South African time. And if you are interested in being on that call next Wednesday, please, my email will be in the description. Please shoot me your email, and I will make sure I'll send you the link. The link will also be in the description. But there was the reason why I'm saying this. There are a few individuals in the comments that said some very interesting things,
Hmm.
right? Overall, the comments were very respectful, very supportive, but some people felt that I guess I don't want to put words in their mouth, but the sense that I got was that maybe the South Africans on the call were had a little more uh, gloomy view of South Africa and its progression since apartheid. Did you get that?
Yeah, I mean, if I remember correctly, one person, I felt like they were trying to say that that they weren't getting credit for all the progress that
Right.
had been
Okay.
made
Yeah.
from 94
Till
until
then.
today.
Right.
So,
Yeah, so with that being said, I want to hear some of my South African brothers and sisters get on and let us know some of the progress that has been made because we definitely see it when we go there. When we go to Johannesburg, we see it, right? And as a researcher and a writer, we know that the black middle class in South Africa has grown exponentially in a very short period of time. I think we forget this is like a less than 30 years.
Yeah,
Right. It's less
yeah,
than 30 years.
yeah.
So it's grown exponentially in a very short period of time, even though it has room for exponentially more growth.
Mm-hmm,
Right.
mm-hmm.
So we want to make sure that we get a multiplicity of voices and views. Um, and also, I've invited some of my African friends who grew up in the United States. So hopefully they can make it. They haven't confirmed yet, but they're African friends who grew up in the United States because we want to kind of dig into that kind of that cultural exchange and that experience. What is it like being the son of an African immigrant in the United States, growing up in a primarily black African American environment, right?
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
we want to get into those conversations. So, um, what else did you think about the call?
I thought the call was great. I was really glad that the sister who retired in Cape Town jumped on
Yeah.
and was able to share a little bit of her experience.
Hmm.
Because did she say she had been going there like during apartheid?
No, she says she went there right after apartheid, 1998.
Yeah,
That's what started
yeah,
the conversation.
right.
So she said she started going there in 1998,
Mm-hmm.
and Sandili, our partner Sandili, was saying that most of the people on the call are young. So, but we did have one brother who was
Yeah.
53 years old, brother Ezekiel. He was the elder of the call,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he said some very important things. He, for us, we'd be like, man, Jim Crow was horrible. There's nothing good about it. He said apartheid had its systems, and some of those systems were good for us. Meaning, I guess, I don't know what he
Like,
meant
don't throw the baby out with
with
the
the bath
bathwater
water.
kind of
Right,
thing.
right,
So,
right.
identify those things that are worth
Keeping,
keeping,
right. And
and
definitely
then
not the racial elements of apartheid, but I think he meant like maybe some of the economic systems, some of the banking systems. Is that what you were
that's my
saying?
guess. I'd have to
Yeah.
hear a little bit more, yeah,
Yeah.
from
I'm
him.
that was my assumption, and I could
Mm-hmm.
be wrong. I think that's what he meant. Maybe um, even the way they do property in South Africa, which is very much like what we do in the United States, versus I've known some individuals have some who've had some concerns or some problems buying property in other African countries where they're still owned by tribal
Yeah, yeah.
chiefs and
Or
stuff like
somebody
that.
sold them some
Sold them up
land
under,
that
yeah,
didn't belong
to
to them
them,
to
right?
sell.
And I think that'd be very
Yeah,
difficult to pull
there's
off in
challenges.
South Africa. So I think, and they talked about the BEE, right?
Yeah.
And that was very similar to what we have locally in New Orleans, but throughout the United States, there is going to be some sort of disadvantaged business enterprise, or whatever it's called. It's a form of business affirmative action, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But what we found here in the United States is that um, oftentimes, and this is one of those things that were very similar. They were saying that in South Africa, sometimes they have, I believe it was Denzel who said this, what they call, like, did he say fronters, or, but
Mm-hmm.
basically individuals who are the face of the company to say it's black owned, but really it's controlled by
Yeah.
white capital.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly the same thing that takes place in the United States. And even more than that, the disadvantaged business enterprise doesn't just include black people in
Mm-hmm.
the United States. In the United States, it includes women,
Right.
it includes other minorities,
Mm-hmm.
other people of color, gay and lesbian brothers and sisters
Mm-hmm.
also.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a gay white man, you can still qualify for this
Right.
disadvantaged business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even the set asides that are meant to initially help black people end up helping a whole bunch of other people, and we get left out. So that's the kind of the American way of
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what else? Who else has some interesting stuff to say?
It's always interesting, like the pace of change, the expectation of the pace of change.
Hmm.
Someone mentioned that. It was like we have to, um, I don't, I'm not sure if it was the Ezekiel
It
or
was
not, but
Ezekiel.
just talking
Yeah.
about the expectation around pace of change is
Hmm.
really important to keep in mind. And also, um, there are two perspectives. Like some people feel like you should be working for self, you should be
Hmm.
building jobs and creating jobs and starting businesses. And then that's challenging, right? Not everybody's going to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody has access to capital
Right.
to start a business. And so there should be work happening on both fronts, right?
Right.
So, the brother that said he's reached this glass ceiling,
Yeah.
he has a legitimate complaint and concern.
He does.
That's
Absolutely.
legitimate. The sister that was on, who was an attorney or a lawyer, and said that there's sort of this good old boys club, for using U.S. language.
Yeah.
To be able to break into these fields, it's really important that is also addressed and figured out, because we know from being in the U.S. that is white capital often runs everything. Those relationships.
Girl, you just pretty. Go ahead, keep talking. I'm sorry.
But the relationships that they have through their systems is what controls and keeps that power in place.
Exactly.
The ability to put their friends and their family in these positions and to lock you out slows down change.
And that's what the brother was saying, who mentioned that the brother worked in corporate America. He was saying, about the glass ceiling. But what made me think of that, what you're saying made me think of the sister who mentioned the black tax. How once you make it into the black middle class, you are now expected to take care of your whole family. And I think that exists in many ways in the black community here in the United States.
And in other communities too.
Yeah.
Our Latino community.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we don't call it the black tax. Really, I don't think we even have a name for it. It's
I've heard black tax in this context as well.
Well,
in the U.S.
Well, I've heard black tax in terms of, it was a book. I believe his name was Sean Rochester. Don't quote me on his name, but the book was about how slavery was 100% tax on our labor, which then created this, this generation and generational poverty. But I haven't heard it in the context of, taking care of your family. I haven't heard it, and I don't know if we've given a name to it. We just know it's something that we do. Right? If you're the successful person in the family, you're expected to take care of at least your mom and your daddy.
Right.
Right? You may not take care of all your brothers and sisters, but you got to take care of mom and daddy. What's the thing when the rappers do when they get their money or the NBA play? I got to go buy my mama a house.
Yeah.
I want to make sure she has a nice car. I want to make sure she never has to work again. So these are the things that we do. But I don't know if it's called the black tax here, but it's definitely something we do. Okay.
But
well, I ain't gonna say you didn't.
Another thing, it's dangerous to compare. And we know this here in the U.S. I remember I had a white coworker once, and it's shortly after we purchased our home that we're in now, but she was in a neighborhood in a part of New Orleans that was very expensive to buy in. We had similar positions. She probably made a little more, But what I'm thinking is, how is it that you can afford to purchase in this area?
Because our mama got money.
Bam!
Yeah.
Her grandparents gave her the 20% down. She didn't have it. It was something her grandparents gave her.
Right.
So it's like, we're not comparing apples to apples here. We always have to remember that in these systems, they're ahead.
That's what the brother, that's the thought that I lost. It came back to me. So the brother who was in corporate America, he was saying, we're not starting at the same point. All. Even if we have the same qualifications and we walk in and we're doing the same job, we're not starting at the same point. You're starting 2 or 3 generations ahead of us. You're starting with more wealth and more capital and more access to capital and wealth than we are. So we're both lawyers, and we're both
in formal entrepreneurship too. I mean, you know how many white colleagues I've had who had an uncle or a cousin or a friend that could front them tens of thousands of dollars, and you were like, "Oh."
We sit up here and we talk about
trying to go to the bank.
We sit up here and we talk about, for instance, Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg, when Facebook was founded in college and it was losing money, his friend loaned him something like, his college roommate loaned him like $17,000 or maybe $20,000, something outrageous. I don't have a friend now at 43 years old that I could call and ask to borrow $10,000, $15,000, or $20,000.
Even if they had it, they'd be like, "For real?
What?"
better go get a business loan.
15,000, man. $200 is about the limit.
And what can you do with 200?
That is about, and that's a good friend.
That's a good friend.
Yeah, you can't borrow no more than about $200 from a friend. Not no 10 or 20. We don't have that type of capital.
No,
right?
No. And
so,
if we do, we're trying to catch up. We're trying to invest it well. We're trying to put it away for our children, and for that way one day they can have the grandparent that can say,
right,
I can help you out.
And even if we had it to give, we are so used to not having it, we would be afraid to give it.
Yeah.
For fear of not having it ever again. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the psychological trauma of poverty makes us very selfish in those ways to friends. But then that bloodline, you're like, I gotta take care of my bloodline. Like again, that black tax. I gotta take care of my mom. I gotta take care of my sisters and my siblings if they're younger than me or whatever have you.
Let's go into this question.
Okay,
this is a good question because somebody, I don't know if they're being sarcastic or what in the comments, but said, y'all sound like you're from the U.S. Almost like, why would we want to come here?
Right.
So let's talk about that, because hearing none of that dissuades me or makes me not want to go to South Africa.
I knew it before I decided to go. I know how to read.
Right.
I am a researcher by profession. So, so again, so that's why we need to have the second conversation with the more focused on the
hopeful side,
the hopeful, more positive side, because again, as there's a professor from the University of Cape Town who did an entire presentation. I think you can find it on YouTube, on the growth of the black middle class in South Africa. Again, we're talking about a stable, as I said before, it is the only world-class, first-class, black-led nation on planet Earth, right? And then the second thing is, which is always kind of seems to be a theme of our videos, it is the majority. So even when you go over there and you're facing some kind of discrimination, right? We know that. We know that it exists. We know the history of apartheid, right? And we know it doesn't go away overnight. It doesn't go away in 20 years or 30 years.
No.
It takes an effort over time for the vestiges of apartheid to be fully eradicated from South African society. However, there's a psychological amelioration of some of this of your concerns when you're still around a whole bunch of black people like yourself, right? And I'm sure that some South Africans have maybe inferiority complex as it relates to white supremacy, but I'm sure it is by no means as deep and in no means as entrenched in the culture as it is in the United States, right? What else? You still go out, and in some of your best neighborhoods, you're still surrounded by a whole bunch of black people, right? In your best restaurants, you're surrounded by a whole bunch of black people. When your son, who is 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, looks up and says to you, Mom, Dad, I want to be the president one day. Think about that. We didn't get that until Barack Obama, and if our children said it to us today, it'd be like saying they want to be the next Michael Jordan. We'd be like, okay, yeah. I'm not going to discourage you. You know what I'm saying? I will never discourage you.
It's possible, but is it plausible?
Right. Barack Obama was an anomaly.
Yeah.
Right? But in South Africa, little boys and girls, because they have black women in their parliament, right? I don't know if it's called parliament, but black women in their parliament. So, and this is a norm. This is regular.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when they say, I want to be the president, I want to grow up to be a politician, I want to grow up and be the mayor of this city or whatever have you, it is not anything that seems out of the ordinary. It is something that they can do because for the last almost 30 years, their entire government has been led and ran by black people. That is something that is invaluable. But you can't put a price on that. So yeah, for those comments, yeah, I understand.
To each their own.
And look, further that, and I know we have to go. Listen, racism and white supremacy is a global phenomenon.
Global.
A global phenomenon. So, yes, black South Africans have to deal with racism and white supremacy. Absolutely. Black Americans have to deal with it. You say, well, I'm in this West African country and it's 99.9% black. I don't have to deal with racism and whites. But the fact that you are impoverished in your country, right? The fact that the
There are
United
vestiges of colonialism.
vestige of colonialism, but even
Yeah.
that, the fact that the world powers in the West often dictate to you your maneuvers and your policy, and if they don't like what you do, they overthrow you and put in a new government. That's white supremacy. That is white supremacy on its most vicious level, right? That is deep white supremacy. So every nation, even if it is 100% black or 100% brown or 100% yellow, is going to have to contend with a global system of white supremacy. The trade, even with the vaccines. I heard one country. I don't want to make up this, but it was a country. I was as we were looking for this Omicron variant and stuff, right? They said that they were charging these people maybe more than double
per shot.
per shot,
And
and
then they were charging other countries.
they were charging the Western country. That's racism and white supremacy, right? And then as they were trying to get the vaccine, they were willing to pay this extra, this taxed vaccine, and then Western countries with more money were still jumping in line ahead
Buying
of
it
them,
all up.
buying it all up.
Yeah.
That's racism and white supremacy. It's going to be hard. You're not going to find a place on planet Earth where you escape racism and white supremacy. But I want to go to Johannesburg where I can be around 80%, 90% black people and we can all deal with each other. I know when we're riding down the M1, I'm not worried about a white man pulling me over and blowing my dang on head off. You understand? Well, we got kind of serious right there.
There's levels to this, I guess.
There's levels to it, baby. We're not going to keep you. Next Wednesday, December the 15th, we will have our second South African American dialogue. It will be 7 o'clock South African time, 7 p.m. South African time, 11 o'clock Central time, and whatever other times
Based it off Central.
you're based off the Central time, right? And anything else you want to add? The description will be in the link will be in the description.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.
All right, you guys have a good one.